so much for another session of our weekly coaching calls. We do this every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And this is live. So if you're a member of Needle Marketing, this is one of the benefits that you have as part of your membership. Please come join us. Feel free to ask questions, chime in, be a part of the conversation. We would love to have you. Joining me is our community manager, Deneen. Deneen, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is my favorite time of the week. I love this time. So I'm always excited to be here and talk about all cool things.
Just Thursdays in general or our coaching calls?
Our coaching calls. Well,
Oh.
Thursdays are nice too because then the weekend comes, but Thursdays for our coaching calls. It's great.
Yeah, I have so much fun and I learn just so much. It's amazing.
Yeah, I hope our members do too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just us
Hopefully,
learning.
hopefully they are as well. And I think this is a content that's near and dear to, or a topic, excuse me, that's near and dear to everybody's heart. Um, Context for everybody. I own a digital marketing agency outside of what I do for Nito, and one of our primary service offerings is content creation. So this is something I have a significant amount of experience with. It's actually something we did for Matt for quite some time, and it's something that Nito Marketing does for our members. So really excited to talk to you about it. Deneen, you're also, I would call you a thought leader in the realm of content creation. Every time you and I talk about content, you seem to just have some really amazing tidbits. Is that a Montessori thing or is that a you thing?
Um, I think it's a Montessori thing. I can't take full credit for that. I've been immersed in the Montessori world for 8 to 10 years, and you really get a different lens on when you're working with children and you're in the schools and you're talking with parents. It's just you get those themes and those ideas that come up, and you hold on to them, and then when you sit down and really think about creating content, it just kind of happens.
Yeah, I've
It's just
noticed
like
that.
a time to do it. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that's a struggle. And honestly, I think that's what we're going to help do here. I've got some really practical advice. This is I'm going to show you the same content schedule that we use as an agency. It's 12 years worth of iteration. So there's quite a bit, I think, in the way of value. And we're going to give that template away at the end of the call. So you can have it and download it and use it. And hopefully it kind of helps break up some of that brainstorming and some of the monotony even. Um, let's dive into crafting a content schedule. Have you ever built a content schedule, Janine, for a school?
I have for my classroom actually,
Okay.
which was really cool.
How do you approach that? I mean, that just seems like a big bear of a task.
It is. Well, I mean, and especially in elementary, you've got parents that really, want to know what's going on. I mean, I think all parents do, what is your kid experiencing throughout the day? But especially elementary, when you've got, their school age and you could very easily just go to a public school for free versus, paying tuition. So, trying to make classrooms more transparent. So, what I did is looked at our elementary curriculum and what are the big question marks for parents. And oftentimes it's like, because we don't send things home, they don't have homework. So, what are they truly doing? Do you know where my child is at? And are they learning? So, every month I had a theme where I would take pictures of the children engaging in that theme. So, for example, the first month was moving from individual to group, because in elementary, it's a lot of group work and engaging. So I had a bunch of pictures of that. And then the next month was big work, because the children love to work big, and have a lot of, really great ideas, and they get to explore those. And then so throughout the year, I also did subjects, because how do we approach language? How do we approach math? And then by the end of the year, they had a full scope and sequence of what the classroom truly looks like, and I brought them through that systematically. And I had 23 families, so I would send 23 stories every month.
That is so cool. I love that
Yeah.
you just said that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I got a lot of really great feedback. It was obviously more work, but I wouldn't say as much as you'd think, right? It sounds like a daunting task, but it probably took me 2 hours extra a month on top of my lesson planning already. And it did even help with lesson planning, because I'm, documenting everything that I'm doing. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And looking back a few months from before, and pulling off of that. So it's kind of
And
cool.
are you sending this home so mom and dad can see what's going on, or this is just you in the classroom?
Oh, no, this is me sending an email with
Okay.
the families with a little story. And also I incorporated parent ed in it as well. So, just a quick theory about how Montessori approaches math in elementary. It's like a paragraph, and then under that, like, this is how your child is doing math in elementary, and then there's a picture.
Wow, that's great. I feel like we should have a course on that.
Oh, I would love to run that course.
Yeah, I think you should. That'd be a ton of value.
Yeah.
Um, you said something here that I think sort of resonated with me a lot. You mentioned kind of planning ahead, which is something we focus on with content marketing because it helps knowing what it is you're going to need. And I like to plan a year ahead for clients, and I think that schools can probably do something along those lines. Um, oh, we have a first question already early in the game. Melanie, you're awesome. Uh,
Right.
how would
Ooh,
you
we
get
have a lot of highs, by the way, too. I didn't see that. Hi, Kim. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Melanie.
all the highs? Melanie says, how would you get the teachers inspired enough to do this? So, what a great question. Why did you do that, Denise? Like, are you just an overachiever, or are there ways for us to catalyze that in our guides?
I am a little bit of an overachiever, but I think it also is just innate in Montessorians, right? We're always learning. We never know everything. We're kind of a generalist when it comes to how we approach our classrooms. So part of the reason why I did what I did, why I was inspired to, is because I was very engaged with the rest of our school community on how we do parent ed. And parent ed was definitely attached to the classrooms because oftentimes, if you have your head of school doing parent ed, it's really great, but and I hope I don't offend anybody, but sometimes it's like, okay, you're hearing from the same person over and over again. I really want to hear from my child's teacher. So a lot of that parent ed engagement really should fall on the teacher because that's, or the guide, because that's who your families want to hear from. So getting your guides to understand that they're truly the ones that their parents want to connect with, I think would be helpful. Um, I also think providing that structure for the guides would be helpful so they're not reinventing the wheel. My brain works in a way of like organizing everything anyway, so it's easy for me to do that. But I imagine, not everybody is like me. So if you could provide, a structure, here's the content schedule that we have. What do you think about this? What makes it easy for you? Can I provide the parent ed piece and then you provide the short story? That whole process I think would make it easier so then the guides aren't feeling like they have to do everything.
So, I love what you just said. I think just to kind of repeat because it aligns so much with where we're going. After you craft the content schedule, it shouldn't be something that just stays with the leadership team. It should be something that goes to every member of your staff, from top to bottom, because that gives them the opportunity to get involved and then also to align what they're doing with what you're doing,
Right.
which is great. And I want to hit some of these bullet points because you already kind of hit them. We want to direct the internal content efforts. Melanie came back with, thank you. I've been in both roles, lower L for 23 years and now head of school. So can relate to what you're saying.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great gift to your school, by the way, Melanie, because oftentimes we get heads of schools that have never taught before or have, taught in traditional settings. So how awesome for your school to have that experience and you to move into that role. Cool.
I remember reading about Disney corporate, and anytime Disney hired anybody, executive staff, they had to work um, at one of the parks for 2 years.
Oh, I like that. I'm always a firm believer too that people should at least work in customer service for a little bit so then they know how that experience is as well, right? Like
Yeah,
serving a waitress or something because you just then what they experience and then you can support them.
yeah. It's yeah, how else? Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not saying you can't learn it the other ways, but it just I think is a little more difficult. Um,
And I apologize, I keep going on tangents. And the
no,
reason
these
why
tangents
our
are great.
calls are so long.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the practicalities of defining the content schedule. I think we touched on the benefits of it pretty well. When we're building our content schedule, and I'm going to get to the application that I'm going to help you use to do this in just a moment, but we want to define the channels that you're going to build content for. Now, pro tip here, you do not have to write content for every single channel. Everybody gets really overwhelmed and you think to yourself, gosh, I have to post on every social channel and I have to maintain a blog and I have to send out emails. And that's not true at all. You want to pick the channels that you think are going to serve you. And I can give you our recommendations after what we've learned about working with Montessori schools, and also make sure that they're channels that you're going to be able to service. If Facebook is important, but you're never going to be on Facebook, then leave it alone, and that's okay. And just understand that that's not something that we can afford to invest in right now. But trying to make a half effort ends up just, I think, showing negatively because people hop on your Facebook page and the last post says, "Hey, sorry we haven't posted so long," and it's 3 months old. So the very first thing we want to do is define the channels that we are going to use. And Deneen, I'm also curious from you, how did you communicate with your parents more often than not? Is that usually an email?
Yeah, we had a weekly bulletin that would go out, but that tended to be more of office stuff. So, hey, don't forget this date. Hey, we need this paperwork in. But we would send out weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, kind of depending on the time of year, just emails of what's going on in the classroom and pictures and whatnot. On top of the individual emails that I would send.
Very cool. And I think the bulletin can, that kind of applies here. You can post to your website and your blog regularly. I think if you're doing this once a month, you're okay. I'd prefer to see once a week, but there's not there's not always the time of the day. If you're a third or fourth plane member, we actually do this for you. We create the content and it's available to you. If you're not, you can still capture quite a bit of our content and use it to kind of recreate some content for yourself. Posting to guest and affiliate sites, I think, is really important. If you're a school that has feeder schools, one of the best ways, in my opinion, to begin to introduce yourself to that school's network is to start providing content. So, let's say you have an elementary program and a nearby Montessori school doesn't, and they tend to send their kids over to you. Um, an amazing way to introduce yourself is to just write an article once a month on the transition or things parents need to know or what they need to prepare for, and then you kind of have a symbiotic relationship with the school and you can post that blog to their site. It helps them because it produces valuable content, and it helps you because it sort of prepares those parents with your narrative. And I'm curious, Deneen, that's the marketer's approach. How would that align with what you think is consistent with Montessori schools?
Absolutely. I think I touched on that too when we were talking about community presence, is just making sure that they know who you are and that also you're a thought leader in the process. So I think that's great. It's a great idea.
Yeah, and if you can share, I just stole that from you. I'm sure that's where I heard it. But if you
Totally.
sharing content back and forth, I think with any schools that you have affiliate or referral relationships with, I think that can be really important. Email broadcasts. Email is still the highest performing digital marketing channel in existence. We're in 2018 and people were saying that email is dead in the year 2000, and it's just not. If you look at every single adult person, we're stuck to our email. I heard a thought leader that I really love and respect say recently that email is technically it's a slot machine. It functions exactly like a slot machine. Every time you pull the handle, something comes out, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. So we're all kind of addicted to this little gamble that is email, and it's important that as a school we use that to our benefit and advantage. And it's one of the best and most effective ways for us to communicate, as long as people look forward to getting your emails. And the way to make them look forward to getting your emails is to say something that matters, that they care about. And what do they care more about than their children? So I'm curious about your approach, Deneen. Did you provide a lot of context in emails, or did you link to the context elsewhere? Like how much time did you spend crafting those?
Um, the individual ones or just the classroom community ones?
Both.
Um, so if I sat down and wrote, information about my classroom, it probably took me 20 or 30 minutes. And for the individual ones, I mean, there was some copying and pasting because I was taking information just about theory and putting in there. It probably took me 5, 10 minutes
Oh, cool.
to do
That's
it.
great.
So yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick. I do have a question though about email broadcasts. I'm hoping that you can answer,
Yeah.
because this has been my thing as I'm going through my many emails. Is we get so many emails in a day. How do we not become one of those that we just click on, oh okay, and then not read it all or just bypass it and go on to the next email?
It's a great question. My answer is going to annoy you. It's relevance. Ryan Dice talks about this a lot. Ryan's one of the best marketers in the world, and he likes to kind of go back to the basics. And what he would say right now is he'd ask you to reflect on the emails that you read, because every single person on this call and everybody listening, watching this video, has emails that they look forward to getting. You subscribe to a newsletter or there's a blog or I remember when I was really I would see Groupon pop up in my email and I was excited about it when Groupon first started because they had some great deals and they were so compelling and it was so much fun. And my wife and I would do like horseback riding and wine tasting and all this fun stuff, and Groupon was a catalyst for that. So think about the emails that you get really excited about, and think about why you get excited about them. And 9 times out of 10, it's because the content's compelling. They say something interesting. They keep your attention. They respect your inbox. They don't send stuff just to send it. And when they start doing that, then you become disengaged, and then over time you unsubscribe. And so, there's folks out there. For me, I really love Tim Ferriss. I really love Joe Rogan. Um, and so when their emails land in my inbox, I'm just all over it. I can't wait. I kind of save them for myself as a little treat. Tim Ferriss's 5 Bullet Friday. We want to do that for our parents. We want to provide them with the information that excites them and that they look forward to. We send out a weekly newsletter at Solutions 8. I've had clients reach out to us when we skipped a week, and they've reached out and said, "Hey, I hope you didn't not send it or take me off your list. I missed getting the 8th rate." And it's because we give them so many actionable, tips and hints and tricks as to what they should be doing with their marketing. And I didn't realize how many people were following it so closely. So I think if you can put yourself in that position, then you're not being intrusive. You're not being that, you know, the wasted space in the inbox. And I know that's easier said than done, but I do think that's the answer. Was that an effective response?
Yeah, well, and it also has me thinking, like, how, I mean, obviously, we want to have information about what our children are doing in the classroom and, what's happening in the community. But I wonder, how would you survey your parents or your community to know truly what it is that they're anchored in on? Because I mean, obviously, it's lovely to hear stories about the children on a regular basis, but can we go beyond that and see if there's other things that we could engage the parent population with? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you mentioned, I would love to loop this back around to the topic on community, because I think that's what content is kind of meant to do, is to bring people around a central theme or narrative.
Mhm.
And in a lot of cases, I think the school can be responsible for catalyzing that. But, like what you just said, bringing the parent population together, I'd love to see content that connects parents. Um, a parent might ask a question about, hey, I've got twins, and what do you do in this instance? And then you have another parent in the school that has twins and they'd never met before. Well, what an awesome opportunity for them to connect and be friends, and that does nothing but strengthen your school, because now you have people that have, an additional connection to your school outside of just the fact that they send their children there. Not that that's nominal, but every additional strand that you build, I think, is powerful. So, um, if you can put your content in more of a public forum like Facebook, for instance, where people can, comment on it and engage and ask questions, or, comments on your blogs, I think that starts to position you to be, a school and a community. And again, that just goes right back to what you talked about, the other week, Deneen, with community building and community presence.
Right. I mean, basically a parenting partner. I mean, that's what most parents want to know. Like, how do I think I'm doing this right. How do I do this better? I guess we all don't know, but we can talk about it, right? And figure out how to parent in the best possible way, and hopefully in a Montessori way.
Yeah, well, and it would be therapeutic. I can tell you as a dad, I'd love to be able to hop onto a Facebook group and say, hey, I probably screwed this up, but here's what happened.
Please tell me that my child will be okay when they're 18.
Yeah, exactly. Did I ruin him forever? Like, should I start saving for therapy?
Yes.
Um, and it would be better to do that in an environment that's friendly and local. I mean, you can go on some, obscure arbitrary forum, but how awesome would it be to do it at your kid's school where people know, my little guy's name is Sammy. It'd be awesome to be able to interface with people that know Sammy, know his little idiosyncratic behavior, what sets him off, where he's fun, where he's engaged, and gosh, what a gift that would be if you can create that. And it's hard, but it's feasible, and I mean, the value, I think, it's incalculable. I mean, there's so much to it. Anyway, sorry, I went tangent now.
Yeah. No, this is good. This is really good.
The social profiles that Bergamo uses are listed here: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. Matt has a full-time person that manages this. I do not recommend that schools try to attempt this unless you have that resource. The one that I want to point you at right now is Facebook. Um, 50% of the adult population is still active on Facebook. Now that number is declining, and they're transitioning over to Instagram. So if you have 1 foot in Facebook and 1 foot in Instagram, that might be an effective strategy. But if you're only going to invest in one, then Facebook right now is still the one. And we'll keep you up to date as it as that may or may not change. Instagram is a little more difficult to engage prospects with directly. It tends to be for more of your right brain users. Instagram is more about me, and Facebook is more about everybody else. Um, if I can contextualize it that way. So Instagram's about how things make me feel, and Facebook's about like how I can interface with other folks. Learn, share. Instagram is more like dream, and then YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet. It's also the fastest growing social media site on the planet. This would be something to invest in the future. You don't need to create a lot of content, but you have to create really valuable content. So if you wanted to hop on and create one awesome video a month, let's say that reviews all the content you made for that month, that would be something great to do on YouTube. And I bet it's something your parents would look forward to seeing. Everybody wants to see who are these people, and kind of get to know. I mean, you might know the guide, but you don't necessarily know the head of school very well. And so, branding yourself along with your school, I think, could be really important. I don't know, Denise, did you have an experience with that? Did you guys create any videos at Bergamo?
Um, well, yes. Some of us were more comfortable than others. So that's definitely something to consider.
Sure.
But I think it would be super neat to have like somebody come in and video a lesson that was being given, or just the day-to-day stuff, like fast forward, a work cycle, and kind of see what that looks like and see how busy it is.
Hmm.
I know Matt did a few of the. I mean, he's got some great videos of just a day in the life, right, of a toddler. And but that's really, really helpful. You just have to make sure that your staff is comfortable, because it can feel really weird. And one suggestion I have is just making sure that you're getting in the classrooms regularly to observe. And so your adults and that the community is just used to having somebody else in the classroom, which I imagine, you've got tours and observations that happen, but also administration getting in there and just helping the classroom kind of desensitize from those odd things of having a camera in the room. Or
Sure. One note on that is we have the language that Matt uses, the image and video release that Matt uses. It's in the resources section of the Neato member area. So if you want that language, it's housed under the Early Childhood Enrollment Agreement. And I know that's a tangent, but I think it's an important one and a question that we get often. Um,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's families that usually, or some families that just don't want that to happen. They don't want their children out there, which I get. That's
yeah,
important.
totally understood. Um, and the benefit you have when you're creating videos is those videos, they live forever. I mean, the shelf life it's as it'll last as long as Montessori lasts. Like it's not like we're changing things often or frequently. So they're worth investing in. Pinterest is one that I think that is great for branding. It's a lot like a billboard. You're not going to drive a ton of traffic, but I think you can get some engagement off of Pinterest. And then analog channels, I think, are all too often ignored. Matt makes a lot of points about snail mail, and snail mail is just a colloquial term for direct mail. But this not only performs well, it actually has been started performing better because so many people are leaving direct mail as a marketing avenue. So our mailboxes are kind of opening up a little bit more. So don't ignore snail mail. It can be pretty powerful. I've also heard some feedback from a member school actually, where parents were really surprised at getting a physical school newsletter and really liked that. So if you have the ability just to print those off and fire them off to your parents, I think that'd be kind of a fun thing because you can see, feel, touch, and hold. And then, of course, if you're advertising in any local publications, I think that our members would be shocked at how easy it is to get mentions in local newspapers. Um, Calling up their editorial staff, those people, some of those writers are volunteers, by the way, a lot of them, and they're dying for stories and scoops. So if you have something that really is compelling, you can't make it up. But what was that thing that Matt did, Deneen, the glass classroom? Can you talk about
Mhm.
that for?
Yeah. Well, he did it at the Capitol because it's in Sacramento. So he just set it up there. I can't remember if it was just kind of oh, it was a random day. That's right. He just did it. He didn't really tell anybody. He just wanted people to look at it. There was no event happening. It was just that was the event, which was pretty cool. And I don't know if he put it in any local publications. I'm not certain,
Yeah,
but
but
it
that's the
worked really
type of
well.
thing that could have gone easily. I mean, that's an easy inclusion in the paper, and it's depending on how slow they are, that could be a front page thing because it's so interesting. Like, look at this classroom. Um, so
Yeah.
and it's an email or a phone call. Just pick up the phone and call the editorial director. And again, you'd be surprised at how accessible they are and how receptive they are, as long as your story really is compelling. Um,
Right. Well, I posted, I think it was in the forum, an article that a reporter went in to observe in one of the Montessori classrooms, and she was just amazed at how it was run and how calm the children were and how directed and independent. And so that's also a thing, having reporters come into your classroom and just check it out. I'm sure they'd love to.
yeah, it would be great to send somebody a video of a Montessori classroom and then say, "I know it's too good to be true. You have to come see how we did this."
Yeah, this is real. We didn't see children.
It's
I
not.
remember feeling that way when I first walked in a classroom and I was figuring out if I wanted to be a Montessori teacher or not. I was like, I was weirded out, right? I was expecting it to be much louder and just more chaotic, I guess, because that's
Yeah.
what you expect. And then it totally wasn't that. Of course, I was sold on it after that.
It's a little eerie, isn't it? You walk in and the classroom's so quiet. It's like, oh, what did they do wrong?
Right. And then you start questioning
Yeah,
yourself. You're like, wait, should I be walking differently or sitting? It's interesting.
that's funny. I'm going to move on to frequency. The frequency for content again is completely up to you. But if we are going to commit to a network, we need to make sure that we're being consistent, or we lose the momentum that we're building. The frequency that we currently post at is one blog per week, one guest blog per month, and one email newsletter per week. Now, this is much easier than it sounds because the blog and the email are the same content. When we write a blog, we just send out an email that lets people know we wrote that blog, and then it also includes any relevant news and events. And then the guest blog tends to be kind of it can be a combination of the blogs or a tangent of one of the blogs, so it's relevant, and then we'll link back to the blog that's on our site. You don't have to post this frequently. I think you can do as little as once a month. As long as you're posting to your blog once a month and sending an email blast once a month, I think you're okay. But I do think that's the absolute bare minimum. And
I'd
again,
say
we
twice a month. I mean, but I think anyway, because it's just it, it reminds people. I think 1 month that's a long time, right? To wait for another really exciting thing. I'd say twice a month.
well, I'm happy to hear you say that. I was trying to be as friendly as I could be with it, but me being the marketer, I like to see more than less. One note that I'll offer everybody is we have a ton of content in our members area. Now, you don't have to just copy and paste this content verbatim. You're absolutely free to. It's yours for as long as you're a member. Um, but what you can do is take it and chop it up, revise it, make it your own. And one of these articles could trigger three or four, just from a brainstorming perspective. So don't let the content creation process scare you off. We want to do as much as we can to help you here. And, most of these are free. I think they're even available to our first plane members. So please take us up on those resources. For social profiles, I just have some general rules of thumb here. Facebook, we like to post once a day. You can post 3 times a week at a minimum, but once a day is, and to be honest, there's no excuse not to. If we're going to post on Facebook, posting once a day is as easy as posting 3 times a week once you actually get to it, because you can pre-schedule your posts. Um, so it just makes sense to maintain consistency. Statistically, you're only going to reach 3 to 5% of your user base on Facebook with a single post. So you want to post once a day so you actually get around to everybody. Instagram is image based, which is a little more difficult. So you can post 3 times per week. Instagram's nice though because you can reuse images and you still get engagement, which is kind of cool, especially if you made a modification or an edit. YouTube, one video per week is, I think, really aggressive. Actually, if you're at one a month, I'd be proud of you. And then Pinterest, you can do a lot with Pinterest, but if you're going to create custom infographics, I think one per month is fine. And then for analog channels, I just have some general rules here: one mailer per quarter, 2 local publications per year, and then a school newsletter per quarter, just because printing costs can be cost prohibitive. Do you think this is feasible, Deneen, looking at this for a Montessori school? Is this something that you think is, can be done?
Yeah, it's a lot to manage though. So what can we do to help manage this? I know we can schedule, or not we, I mean, well, we can actually, we do that for some of our members, but
Yeah.
how do we help our members schedule this so they're not like, okay, I did this on this day, and it's a lot.
It's just the perfect segue. So we're going to
Oh,
talk
look
about
at
crafting.
that.
Yeah, bam. Crafting our content calendar. So first, I like to define content monthly versus quarterly. A lot of the editorial content you see online that teaches you how to build a content calendar wants you to craft it by the quarter. I think that's flawed logic. And it's flawed logic because it leaves way too much up to chance. It's just my opinion, but I think that we should be crafting monthly. I like to come up with 12 topics, and I want to teach you exactly how to do that right now on this call. And they're broken down from topic or from theme to topic to category, and I'll show you exactly what that means. And then Deneen and our writer, Christy, came up with recurring categories for Nito's content. So you'll notice the content that we create follows this line. Deneen, can you tell me how you landed there? Was that a brainstorming session between you and Christy, or was that just easy to land on?
Well, the themes, topics, categories, I was browsing myself in all the stuff we had, and I was like, man, there's just a lot of stuff, and it's lovely, but I need it to be organized so I can find it easily.
Okay.
So, and then it also helps then to create that content schedule because you've got different themes um, under that. So that came about in our conversation of how to easily navigate what we have.
Got it. I'm going to share our, oops, let me go back. I'm going to share our template real quick. Um, this is a templated content schedule, and I'm going to zoom in because I have a feeling that it's probably hard to see based on my call earlier. When Deneen and I were going through this together. So you'll notice that this is actually broken up by fiscal year, which is how we do our content at Solutions 8. Deneen made the great point that it'll be better to start in August when the school year starts. But however you want to break up your quarters, you have your first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And then for each quarter, we're going to define a theme. And the theme can be whatever you want. It needs to be broad enough to really own and in 3 months worth of content. So you don't want to choose a theme that's too narrow, but you want it to be compelling and specific at the same time. So when we choose, we're going to choose 4 themes, and I want to make the point that this actually makes it a lot easier, because if you think to yourself, gosh, I need to come up with content for an entire year, well, that's daunting. But then if I tell you, hey, I'm going to come up with 4 themes, well, I can come up with 4 themes. And Melanie has a comment. She says, we've been looking at hiring some outside marketing help to do this. Oh, that's great. Yeah, if you want to bring in an additional resource, one thing that you can do is actually give them access to our members area. I'd also encourage you to look at what we have available, because I think we might be far more cost effective, if you don't mind the selfish plug. We do pre-scheduling content for our clients, content creation for our clients. Third-party members get blogs, emails, and social posts. So if you're interested, Melanie, let me know, and I can go over everything that we have available. Sorry, I got sidetracked. We're going to come up with 4 themes for the year. And again, that I think is an achievable goal. And then for each theme, you're going to come up with 3 topics. And what's nice, again, is that's an achievable goal. So we're going to split the theme into 3 topics. And then from each one of those topics, you're now going to just fill in the blanks for your content schedule. So I've got 5 blogs, because, one for every week. And for the months that don't have 5 weeks, we would just not have a 5th one. 1 guest blog, 5 emails, and then here are social posts. So you can see that by sort of distilling what it is that we need on a quarterly basis and then a monthly basis, it gives us the opportunity to begin filling in these blanks. And the other thing that you can do is rope in your staff. So now that you know what content you need, take inventory of who you have available to you, and where their interests lie, and who might be able to create what. And if somebody knows 2 or 3 months in advance that they need to create a blog on something, A, it gives them a ton of time to really think about the best way to do it and brainstorm on it. And then B, it ends up not being that daunting a task. And I've got an example here of just filling in the blanks. I did my best to come up with topics that might be Montessori-esque. Deneen said it was a valiant effort, which I think was her nice way of saying that I did my best. So forgive me if I overstep my bounds here.
It looks nice.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So here's just an example. Q1, the theme would be respect. Q2, the theme would be nature. Q3, the theme would be independence. And Q4, the theme would be diversity. And I just want to touch on how broad these are. They're not meant to be, categories or topics. They're meant to be, call them words of inspiration. And this just helps you put a box around your brainstorming, because otherwise, if the world is your oyster, it ends up being a really difficult place to be with content writing, because you get stuck staring at a blank page. And then from respect, we broke it up into 3 topics. And again, this might not be perfectly analogous, but You know, friends, the child, ourselves. And then for nature, pets, plants, and play. For independence, at home, at school, in the world. And for diversity, practical, functional, and fun. And hopefully this gives a pretty good sense as to how easy this now becomes to write blogs about. So January, we're talking about respect, excuse me, and then friends is the context, and coming up with 4 blogs about that, specifically if you have your recurring categories. So, these categories obviously apply to NITO, not necessarily to a school, but our categories are theory and curriculum, parenting resources, current list of items of interest, and book lists. And then if there's a fifth week, we do fun. Um, so if you had pre defined categories, you now kind of have an X and a Y axis. There's sort of a matrix that's going on here. Topically what you're talking about, categorically what you're talking about. And, sometimes it's not a perfect fit and you might need to change something, but for the most part, it really gives you a very strong sense as to what it is that you should be writing. And that's, again, the other thing that I'd like to focus on is repurposing content. Once you've created the blogs, which is the hard part, you now have something to draw on for your guest blog. You don't want to copy and paste, obviously, but you can use one of these as inspiration to maybe do a little bit of a deeper dive or a tangential reference. And then your emails can truly copy the blog almost entirely. You don't want to send the whole blog to people via email, but I would send a snippet, say, hey, we've got this great article for you on here's whatever it is. And then, maybe provide some news resources, updates as is necessary for an email newsletter. But with this one piece of content, you can see was repurposed multiple times. And then every single blog that you write, I promise you, is going to give you some really amazing snippets that you can carve out and sort of quote yourself inside of social media. Um, and crafting this content schedule, I think, just became, that much easier. The other thing I want to make a point about is you can pre-schedule all of these assets. Once the blogs are written, and the emails are written and the social posts are written, you can schedule blogs on WordPress. You can schedule emails inside of MailChimp, and you can schedule social posts on Facebook or using tools like Social Pilot. It shouldn't take you more than a half hour once you get good at it to schedule all of that content. So, in 30 minutes, call it an hour if you want to be a stickler to like formatting and cleaning up. In an hour, you can do an entire month's worth of content scheduling, and then you don't have to worry about it ever again. Now, obviously, that doesn't speak to the creation time for content, and that's going to be different for every school. One thing I would like to say is that we provide this for our members. This is a resource that we have available. Second plane members, you have access to social posts. Did I interrupt you, Deneen? I'm sorry.
No, I'm not at all. I'm listening.
Okay. Second plane members have access to social posts. We create one social post for every single business day. I'll call them school day, excuse me. And just pulling this up, you can see that we have some instructions here. And the posts are all Montessori specific, drawing on Montessori themes. These are all written by a Montessorian, one of our writers, and then Deneen looks them over and makes some edits and adjustments. And you can see how easy this is. So if you're a second plane member or up and you're not using this, then I'm just going to ask you to at least take a look at it. You don't have to copy and paste the content. Revise it, make it your own, but this makes it so much easier. The brainstorming's done for you. And you can change the dates too if you decide you want to swap them around and move them around or insert your own or, leave something behind. But this just helps establish you as a thought leader and make sure everybody know, that you're in the space to help educate not just their children, but also them.
It's really great content too. I'm enjoying reading it. We have a wonderful content writer. So if you're not using them, definitely do. It's going to make your life a lot easier. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the content and the depth and the breadth of all of it.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of it. I mean, we have almost a year's worth of content here now, by the way.
Yeah.
So, if you're new to NITO and you want to kill some time, spend some time going through our past social posts. In our third and fourth plane members, you have access to blogs and emails. And the blogs are broken down categorically by topic. So you'll notice in October, we have, I think, 5 great topics: the keys to handwriting success, Montessori and nature, what's in a pumpkin. That was a really fun one. A book list for inspiring independent thinkers, and then math fact memorization. And I'll just open one of these up so you can see what they look like. So here's our what's in a pumpkin. We included a royalty-free stock photo that you can use. And it's just an awesome piece of content. There's 1,000 words here. And we've got, like a fun song that people can sing, and we reference some, fun things to do, things to cook. Uh, just really compelling content that I think is of value to you and your parents. Anyway, sorry, I got a little sidetracked. This is the content schedule template. Is this of value to everybody? Curious as to our live listeners if this is something that you're going to use. I'm going to include a link to this underneath the call recording today. So you'll have this available to you to download, but I'd also love some feedback on whether or not you think this is relevant to what you're doing in your school.
And while we're waiting, I'd like to mention, so what I love about, can you go back to the content schedule?
Oh, yeah, sure.
As you're describing this, which you did it very well, by the way, I am imagining that this can go hand in hand with a parent ed content schedule. Because ultimately, what we're doing with this content is we're wanting to seek engagement, right, with our current families and prospective families, but also provide an understanding, a deeper understanding of Montessori and what we do. And all of that falls under parent ed. It's what we do, and you know what I mean when I say parent ed, right, cousin?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Learning.
these posts can be exactly in tandem with what you plan. And if you are sitting down and you're not really sure what to do for parent ed, maybe do this first, and then there's your answer. You got it, or vice versa. I mean, they go together very well.
Very well said. And to your point earlier, I feel like if this task is completed and then shared with everyone at the school, all the guides and even what's the word, Deneen? Help me, the assistants?
Yeah, the aides or assistants.
The aides, yeah. So I mean, I think if an aide had access to this and saw a topic that they felt really passionate about, because those are the folks that they're learning, they're in the zone. You can get some really awesome content out of some surprising places. But you just need to share the need with your staff, and I think you may be surprised at who kind of steps up.
Yeah, and you can give them that, they can hone in on topics, especially for, like that you said, the assistants and the aides, because they're the ones that are typically out on the playground with the children or during lunch. And that is when some super cool stuff happens about that we work so hard on in the classroom. And then, we hope and cross our fingers that that translates to real life situations of what they do in the world. So the assistants are typically along with them on that journey.
Well, I didn't know that. That's great. We've got two comments. Melissa Campbell said, yes, love the content. Thanks so much, Melissa. And Melanie said, this is amazing. Can't wait to explore it and look at it as a possibility for us. Awesome. So happy that you're finding value here.
Yeah, and feel free, as you go through it, Melanie and Melissa, just let us know how it is. And if you have any ideas or, how you've tailored it to your school, we'd love to hear that. You can either just email us or even post it to the forum, because I imagine other people will be in that same situation, just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we'd love the improvement opportunity. We don't know everything. We're taking what we do know and applying it to the Montessori method. But, Deneen, you already said it so masterfully, but we just, anything that you come up with, please share it with us, because we'll share it with the whole community and it makes all of us better. One note I wanted to make is we should assign ownership with content. It's really, coming up with the content schedule is only half the battle. And because you're building your content schedule a year early, it's really important to let people know what it is that they're going to be responsible for. And I think assigning tasks early helps make sure that those tasks are going to get completed and accomplished. Um, Also, take inventory of the content and media needs. So as you're creating this content, one thing that's hard to do is come up with imagery. Well, if you need to come up with one image, it's not feasible to bring a photographer on site to take one image of one blog. But if you know your entire year's content need and schedule, then bringing a photographer in, even if it's a friendly, like a parent or somebody on staff that's got a nice digital camera, now you can shoot photos and you can shoot them for the full year. And I mean, obviously the seasons have been changed, and you won't necessarily have everything, but you will have way more context, and you'll be able to capture way more than shooting things at random without a schedule at all. So taking inventory of your media needs, I think, is important, and then also getting a month ahead. There's no difference in the amount of workload once you're a month ahead. You're still creating content for a month. You're just doing it 12 months ahead, and it takes all of the stress off, which is great. We actually produce all the content we send our members is produced a month ahead. And make sure to collaborate internally, collaborate with other schools, collaborate with us. Hit the forum if you have a piece of content you want to create with somebody, but you need somebody that has a background or insight that you don't have. um, Reach out to our member base. We really want to kind of support our own community and build fellowship here. And Denise, I don't know that we're doing a great job of that yet, which is entirely my fault, but I'd love to push that more and more. You connected two schools recently over a topic that um, was sensitive but also really important, and I thought that was amazing. I'd like to do more of that school to school connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't, no, it's not all your fault, by the way. It's just, I think, as we get to know our members more and more, those opportunities will come, similar to when schools are getting to know their community more and more. So I think we're kind of in that same boat, in the same realm of trying to figure that out. So the more obviously engagement that we have, the more opportunities we have to connect.
Absolutely. And a note to our members, if there's a piece of content you want, tell us. We'll create it for you. And we'll create it for you because we want to create it for all of our members. So treat us as order takers. We had somebody recently, I forget who it was. I wish I could give them credit, but they wanted to explain Montessori math, and they asked for an article on Montessori math, and I think it was one of our best blogs ever. So if there's content you want, videos you want, infographics you want, if there's something specific you want, of course, it would need to be a benefit to our entire member base. We can't create something, that's too specific, but if there's something you want that's, mission appropriate, then let us know. And we have the resources. We have an entire agency behind us, and we can create just about anything. And we would love to collaborate with you on it. We're trying to create webinars right now, actually, um, that explain the Montessori method to brand new parents, and it's hard. And we've been going back and forth. And so if anybody had any input on that, we'd love to collaborate on that type of thing. Those are webinars that we're going to make available to you. So you might as well have some input on the front end. We talked about scheduling content. I don't think we need to hit that too hard. I will say that we have courses inside of the Nindos members area that teaches you exactly how to do that. So if you're having any trouble there, the courses are very quick, very straightforward. And you can see here how to schedule blog posts in WordPress, how to schedule email blasts, and how to schedule social posts. And other than that, interested in the questions that our members have? More ideas, maybe? We could get some brainstorming going. Help us with thought leadership. We've talked about the best social channels to use. You don't need to use every social platform. We did talk about email frequency. And other than that, would love to know any questions and ideas from our live members. And to the people that show up live, thank you so much for being here. You really add just an awesome element for us, and it feels like we're not shouting into the wind, which
Then
can
it would
be
just
awkward.
be you and I and Matt just talking back and forth.
Yeah, just going on and on, just pontificating
Because we can talk a lot.
to no end.
I do have a question though for you, Qasim. You put up Pinterest, and while I've kind of, I'm familiar with Pinterest, can you talk a little bit more about how that can be helpful or useful for Montessori schools and how to use it?
Sure. How to use it is a good question. I haven't figured out Pinterest myself. This
Sorry to
is
put you on the spot.
no, that's okay. It's just images, and you notice some of these images might not even be exceptionally safe for work per se. But the reason Pinterest is great is it's demographically applicable. Pinterest is that it's mom heavy, I'll call it. So, and it's also people that are interested in like thought leadership, learning, growing. People love to share medical, um, like ailment studies on Pinterest. They love to share nutrition. They love to share cooking advice, fitness advice. So it's all of like your forward thinking parents, and those are our Montessori parents. So looking here, you can kind of see honey and baking soda, amazing cure. I don't even know what that means, but it's a way to share information, how to's, infographics. It's not just pictures, that's Instagram. But if you have informational imagery, that goes up on Pinterest. And I think that this is a great place for Montessorians to live, because I feel like obviously Montessorians are thought leaders, But I also think that there tends to be sort of a sensory emphasis in Montessori. And so, image based um, education is something that, the Montessori method could play pretty heavily into. Now, we'd have to create those images, of course, but once they're created, I think that Pinterest can be a really effective place to begin cultivating a network. Um, was that a good answer, Deneen? Any questions about that more specifically?
No, I do have a comment though. When we're talking about being a thought leader and then also a parenting partner, this is a perfect place to maybe have a little snippet about how important play is and free play. So that's a parenting topic that is hot right now, and scheduling your child's after school versus allowing them to kind of wind down. Also, just how we interact. My apologies. How we interact with our children. So just there's so many opportunities on this platform to do that. And so going back and just posting to your community's platform, I think this is a huge one.
I love the free play idea. That's an easy infographic for us to make as well. Um, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that building a community and providing this type of media, Pinterest is a great place to put it. But it's hard. It's hard to create the content. So again, to our members, treat us as order takers. I overwhelm me. I challenge you. Send me as much as you possibly can because I think you'll be surprised at how much we can create. I'd love for you to put me in a position to cry uncle. Um, we've got a big engine, and we want to do as much for our members and our schools as we possibly can. So if you come up with, like with Deneen's idea, that's such a great idea. Let's do that. And anything else that you want or need, if it works for our members, then we'll have it built. Um, yeah. Any other questions or input from our live listeners? Have we put you all to sleep? Wouldn't be my first time.
It's good stuff. Oh, my little guy is making a debut right now. So.
No, that's okay. I think that's
Do you
probably the most appropriate podcast for him to make a debut on. So
right? He has a lot of input. Do you know what our topic is going to be for next week yet?
I do.
Okay, let's maybe introduce that and get people excited about it because this whole theme of thought leadership that I'm really excited about it and I'm hoping that other Montessorians will be too. But yeah, what are we talking about next week?
So today was crafting a content schedule. Next week is Montessori Blogging 101, and we're going to introduce our blogging template, and then also blogging best practices. So how to write a blog, how to structure it, how to format it, um, keys for organic optimization, what key phrases to use, how to write an effective title, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, appreciate everybody being here. This was a great call. Um, love the opportunity to talk with all of you. Melanie just said thank you. Thank you, Melanie. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Deneen, as always, a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, Costin. Thanks for the great conversation, and I'm glad that our members could join us.
Yeah, likewise. I will talk to you all next week.